Have a look at an example of working with functions. The example I want to take is from Matthew's notes, and let's draw this on, and let's just very briefly lay it out. Okay, so we have a pizza, and this particular pizza has a base here, has a crust which has a width. It has the radius of a pizza. Okay, let's just kind of get clear about what all the values are. This edge around the edge is obviously called the crust. Well, I say obvious, it's not necessarily that obvious. This is your cheese layer here on top, so I'll just shade that in. There's your cheese. Okay, so what we want to do is, with the knowing what the radius of the pizza is, and the width of the crust, that's this distance here, that's the width of the crust, right? So it's the width of the crust. With those two inputs, I want to calculate the cost of a pizza. Now, I suspect some of you will say, there's no way, that's not enough information. You're absolutely right. We need some more information. And if you look at Matthew's notes, what he says is the cost of the base is 1 pence per centimetre squared, and the cost of the cheese topping is 2.5 pence per centimetre squared. Okay, I said centimetre, I meant centimetre squared. Okay, it's quite a complex problem that I'm throwing at you. So what we now need to do is break this down. And if you think about it, learning how to break down, how to solve a problem is the heart of being successful with programming. So let's just take that down here and think it through. Okay, so first of all, let's just kind of get the gist of how this is going to work. The cost of the overall base refers to the bigger circle. So if I know what the area of the bigger circle is, right, I multiply it by a penny, that gives me that cost. To know what the cost then is of the cheese, I need to know what the area of that circle is. Okay, and then I multiply that area by 2.5, and then I add the two things together. So let's break the problem down into several different parts. We know that we need to work out what an area of a circle is. So why don't we create a function that calculates the area of a circle based on a radius? Okay. Now, watch my thinking process. What I'm doing is I've taken the whole thing. I realize if I need this, I also need these other little pieces of function. So let's break it down. Let's say that we need something which is going to calculate area circle. And we need to calculate the area of a circle, the value we need to pass it is the radius. And let's import the math library. Using the math library, he says, mistyping everything, that we could come over here, right? Using the math library, the area of a circle, if I just define it, is math times pi times the radius squared. Okay, that's the calculation. So if that's the calculation, that's what this function needs to give us back. So let's say we return area. So that's our first useful little function. You give it a radius, and it will calculate the bear with me a second, I'm just getting my spaces, the area. Okay, so before you go any further, the sensible thing is actually to test it, right? So never write a function that you then just ignore, because it might have flaws inside it. So we need to test that actually works. So let's pass it, I don't know, 10, and run that and see what happens if we run our program now. Now what we're going to do is break the whole problem down into these smaller pieces. Okay. Now you're saying to me, hang on, how do I know that worked? Well, it returned the value, but I didn't print it. So the easiest thing to do is actually wrap the whole function round a print statement. And what that means is that this function will return its answer, and that will be printed. So let's see what that is. We would expect it to be about 314. Okay, so let's run it. 314. Looks like it's calculating the area of a circle quite well without much difficulty. So that's the first piece we want to do in this sequence.